Yeah! It's your boy Jedboy, and today we're taking a look at the APC Toy 001 Prime Attack, which, to anyone with a brain, is obviously a fourth-party figure of the Transformers Voyager-class Optimus from my favorite TF show, Transformers Prime. And it will please some of you to know that I actually love this series, just like this childhood favorite figure, which I never owned. Allow me to explain. I really wanted the original TFP Voyager Optimus for a long time growing up as a kid, so when I was finally able to get it, Hasbro stopped producing them. Great, but fortunately, APC Toys came along and started making fourth-party figures of those Transformers Prime toys. So when I saw the window to get this guy, I immediately took it. And when I finally got the figure in my hands for the first time, I actually had to pull back on the nostalgia bait for a bit, because much like this figure, the Energon Optimus, which I reviewed, links in the description, was also a childhood toy that I really wanted, but that figure deliberately shattered my expectations over and over, and I did not want to go through that with this figure, but fortunately, I didn't have to. The painting and sculpting on this figure is amazing. From what I understand, this is supposed to be based off the Takara release of the original figure, hence why the Shoji Store page for this guy says this is the Japan version. On a side note, big shout out to Shoji Store for giving me this guy on a discount, and for making it my very first purchase from you. And I gotta admit, I like this guy's color scheme a lot better than the US versions, which in comparison to this guy, looks a lot more saturated and brightened up. But the color scheme on this guy I prefer a lot more because A, it's more show accurate, and B, the deeper, darker, and more desaturated tones of this guy's color scheme fits this version of Optimus and Transformers Prime in general a lot better. And yeah, spoilers for TFP for all you kids out there, it will leave you traumatized. Like me. It's not just the color scheme either. The actual detailing of the sculpt is really well done, and it captures the best of what that original design had to offer. Sure, some details are changed so that they can fit better into the transformation, but it's impressive enough that they were able to keep all these details while still making him able to transform. TF Red! The fact that Hasbro and Takara were able to pull this off 15 years ago should really tell you about the revolving priorities, or should I say, devolving. I also got this guy from the Shoji Store, but forget about me reviewing this hunchback. And on the topic of hunchbacks, no, not really. The kibble does stand out a bit from some angles, but it's tucked away neatly and holds together fairly well. Mostly. Not a fan how these have nowhere to plug into in this mode, but the gray struts they're attached to are pretty tight so they don't feel like a floppy mess. Just like this figure. Quite the opposite, actually. He is as solid as a Prime should be. This is the best thing I can say about this guy overall. This feels like a toy in the best way possible. Adding to his toyeticness, is that a real word? Is the amount of accessories you get, which is a lot more than the original figure came with. Just an Energon blaster and sword, but for this guy, you get two of each. Slide those into his hands, and that looks pretty cool. You also get the option to plug the swords into the guns to act as sort of bayonets. Looks pretty dumb, and never happened in the show, but it's nice you have the option. I don't know though, I gotta be a Vegeta about it. When he uses his guns in the show, they're deployed sideways. They don't stick up like this. Easy fix, rotate the hand down, don't bother rotating it up, slide the gun in, and man, that looks great. But there's more than I could say about the weapons themselves. I don't know, I just don't think the solid black and clear blue plastic fits these weapons all too well. I might touch them up with a custom paint job later on, but I'm content with how they look now. And you get an alternate unmasked head, which I believe was custom made by APC Toys themselves. Good stuff. And both of these heads look great. They look exactly like how Optimus did in the original show. And both of the heads have a brilliant degree of light piping, which gives the eyes life. Which brings me to a minor issue. If you don't have a light behind the eyes, they look kinda dead. I'm not sure how APC could have painted the eyes so that the light still shines through, but if you look at it from a distance, it doesn't look bad at all. As for his final accessory, wait a minute, this is actually a tool to help him store his actual final accessory, a beautiful Star Saber, my favorite weapon of the Transformers franchise, right next to the Fortosaurus. To get it into his hand, take the cap off the pommel, slide it in, and put it back on. Man, does Optimus look right with a Star Saber. Now I just need an energized blade. Oh well, one saber is better than none. This is also custom made by APC Toys, and yes, this can be held by other figures. And that tool I previously mentioned allows you to store the saber on his back. I don't recommend sheathing it and unsheathing it like this though, it could potentially be brittle for the paint. Get the swords into the guns and plug them into his hands, and that allows you to get full weapon and accessory storage, heck yeah! Except for the head. What a shame. What if I take that out? Get in there. Doesn't look the best, but you're not going to be able to see it. Up. This back. Shoot. Stay. Okay. Never mind. Full weapon and accessory storage. Heck yeah, but is he posable enough to handle all these weapons? Well, let's find out. Ball joint at the head. Can't look up that far, look down that far. No head pivot, but every ball joint can be a swivel. Same amount of articulation for the other head. Rotation of the arm. Shoulder pad moves out, which allows the arm to move out. You can also untap this for a butterfly joint. Why would you? Bend at the elbow swivel, wrist swivel, waist swivel. What the heck? Because of how this guy transforms, the waist joint isn't in the center of the body as you'd expect, but instead, it is a little extension on his optibus. So when he swivel his waist, it looks sort of uncanny. That's not to say he can't get any poses with his waist swivel though. Leg can kick that far, can kick back that far. Beautiful spread. Belt fly swivel, but a knee swivel to compensate. Bend at the knee, which is the only joint that was a little too tight out of the box. Easy fix, loosen it up with a screwdriver, and now it bends no problem. Up and down to the ankle, a pivot, and a heel joint that's a little too loose for my liking. I would suggest tightening it up, but it's held in place by a pin that goes in from one side. If there is a way to tighten this up that I don't know about, leave it down in the comments. But for now, even with the loose heels, he stands perfectly fine on his own. And poses really well, especially for his age. Not the most amount of articulation, but it's still on par with Transformers toys today. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's no Mastermind Creations or Astrobots, but he's not trying to be. He's meant to be a fun Optimus toy, and I'm okay with that. But this guy wouldn't have the same presence if he didn't have this size. I think this is the biggest Transformer I've ever had. Size comparison time. Here's the Figma Hatsune Miku, Hiya Toys King Kong, the Mixamorph Black Dino Charged Megazord, one of my previous reviews, the bootleg Gypsy Avenger, and my deluxe Optimus's whatever. All my deluxe Optimus Primes from Cyberverse, Earthspark, TF1, and Devastation. K-pop boy band vibes, anybody? And one more random size comparison for Transformer toy sig, my Rise of the Beast Studio Series Voyagers. And yes, the class has gotten smaller over time. Frick off shrinkflation. This guy comes with a bunch of stuff, looks great, poses great, feels great, and that could just be the end of the review, right? But we're talking about Optimus Mother Slagan Prime. He's a robot that turns into a truck. What are you, stupid? Look, I'll do it right now. Anyone get that reference? And here we have the totally original joke mode. Keep in mind, getting everything to tab in the cab can be a bit challenging on your first try, but just exert a little patience and you'll find everything plugs in together nice and smooth as advertised. And here we have the truck mode, which is just everything. Let me put it back in my pants. He is pretty kibble heavy on the bottom, the back, and the bed of the truck, but you can't be telling me it could be cleaner than this. Transformation into the truck mode was also complex, but very simple at the same time. Matter of fact, I've seen this guy reviewed so many times as a kid on YouTube, I basically transformed him from memory. Barely even touched the instructions. And I'm happy to report I got it on my first try. And just like the robot mode, this guy looks almost exactly like how he did in the TV show. Most of the show accuracy is definitely going to the cab. Not completely one-to-one as you can see, but it's the closest we've ever been. If this guy was scaled up and had a lot more posability in the robot mode, he'd be a masterpiece in everything but name. Don't believe me? Let me show you then a nice cool hidden detail I've only noticed when playing with this guy in person. He has a fully detailed interior. He's got a steering wheel, dashboard, and everything. He He even has sculpted in truck seats on the bottom of the neck panel, and this interior doesn't compromise the robot mode. Bumblebee! Again, I gotta say it, the fact Hasbro and Takara pulled this off so many years ago should really say what their priorities are nowadays. And everything that blended together during the transformation keeps this truck mode intact really well. Mostly. Time for my biggest gripe. I wish they could have found a way to have the shins plug in somehow. I personally wouldn't have minded if they had extra holes to keep the truck mode more solid, but the tight joints in the knees and the hips keeps the bed from being too floppy. Besides that though, this truck will not come undone unless you want it to, which makes rolling him around on these plastic wheels a fun time, even despite the low bearing kibble. Although I still recommend rolling him on a flat surface, just so that kibble doesn't catch onto anything underneath. You can also store his weapons on the bed of the truck, just free though, and they don't look good on it at all, so whatever. And the trailer hitch can't actually receive a real trailer, not one made by Hasbro anyway. And for those who are wondering, I'm not paying that much for a box of wheels. After all, doesn't he only have the trailer on for 5 minutes of the entire show? Oh well, this is the best I could do. When I got this guy in truck buff for the first time, I was thinking that it wouldn't be as solid as I hoped it would. Thankfully that ain't the case. What we got here is a nice, solid, and big truck. Size comparison time again. Miku Kong Megazord, Gypsy, and all my robots that turn into trucks. If you really wanted the original figure growing up but never had the opportunity to get it, I recommend picking this guy up, especially if you're a longtime Transformers Prime fan like I am. And forgive me for sounding a bit controversial, but this has gotta be the best official Optimus Prime figure ever. And sure, the Studio Series Primes that we've been getting have been pretty peak, but we had peak 15 years ago, guys. Yeah! And of course I'm getting the APC Toys Dark Master when it re-releases. If any third-party companies out there want to try making your own figures based off of Transformers Prime that actually transform, please do it. You will have my wallet. At this point, I don't care anymore. So after talking about $40 well spent, let's talk about $40 that were completely wasted.